All right, and it looks like we are live. So, good evening and welcome to the Lake Elsinore City Council Candidates Forum presented by the Southwest Riverside County BizPAC. My name is Adam Ruiz and I'm a consultant for the PAC and will be serving as your moderator this evening. For those not familiar with the PAC, the Southwest Riverside County BizPAC is committed to developing leaders, quality of life, economic vitality, and regional influence. Before we start, here are a few reminders how the forum will work this evening. Names were previously drawn at random to determine the order the candidates will be speaking. So the order for tonight, we will start with Steve Manos to be followed by Marvin Andrade. We'll begin with a welcome and then turning it over to your opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement. After you've given your opening statements, we'll move on to the question round. Our questions tonight are meant to educate viewers on where the candidates stand on issues affecting Lake Elsinore and do not favor incumbents or challengers. Each questions will be answered by both candidates, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. Those of you on Zoom here, you should see somewhere on your screen something called timer. You will see a visible timer that will show your countdown time period there to answer your questions. We'll rotate through which candidate responds first to each round, and we should be getting through about 10 questions before we move on to a couple of speed round simple answer questions there as well. And then this is being recorded. It'll be shared on our YouTube, and we'll be able to provide links to you guys after this evening's event so you can share it with your supporters as well. So before we start, I do want to thank both of you for your time tonight and spending some time with us to educate those that are watching to learn a little bit more about you. We'll move right into our opening statements. And as the names were drawn, we will start with Steve Manos. Steve, welcome this evening. You've got 2 minutes.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Steve Manos. I'm currently the mayor for the city of Lake Elsinore. We are running for District 2 City Council. We've been working really hard over the past 12 years as we've served our great city. Just a little bit about myself. I've lived in Lake Elsinore 36 years. I actually grew up in Lake Elsinore and have raised my family here in Lake Elsinore, as well as opened my business and run a consulting and real estate and consulting business here in Lake Elsinore. We've done a lot over the past 12 years, from turning the city around and some pretty acrimonious politics. Before I came in, we kind of calmed things down and professionalized City Hall by bringing in different staff, going ahead and eliminating a lot of the silo issues that we had there, and then getting to work. And once we had everything kind of straightened out in our house, we were able to go out and start really working, fixing up parks, roads, adding police officers, reducing homelessness, bringing down our criminal activity within the city. We opened fire stations. We have upgraded city facilities. We're currently working on a new city hall expansion and a library. We are looking at doing an amphitheater. We've renovated just about everything from Storm Stadium to our interchange upgrades at Railroad Canyon. We're currently working on completing one at Main Street. We've revitalized downtown Main Street. We've got a lot of work happening down there right now, but we did so with some common sense solutions. And the council is very cohesive. I've got endorsements from every single council member, and also endorsements from our congressman, our state senator, as well as our state assemblyman, both of our supervisors that represent the area. It's been a privilege serving.
Thank you, Steve. Marvin, we'll move over to you. Give you 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting tonight, and thank you to everyone watching. My name is Marvin Andrade. Like Steve, I've grown up here for the majority of my life. Though I attended one of our newer high schools, Lakeside High School, and graduated from UC San Diego with a degree in political science and international relations with a focus on business. Like a lot of members of District 2, this is an area that's growing. A lot of these developments are relatively new compared to the rest of the city. And what I hope to be able to outline is a vision for Lake Elsinore that works for this generation and the next. One of the things that I think we all know is a crisis in California is the fact that affordability and our housing is through the roof. I want to be able to construct more homes in this region to make sure that our next generation is able to afford their next house. This is one of the places where it is more expensive to rent than it is to own a home. I believe that climate change is man-made. It's happening right now. We're experiencing it through wildfires in California. And on top of that, we experience that through homeowner insurance going up. We have to take active prevention and mitigation. And lastly, one of the pillars of my platform is sustainable development. It's knowing that this region has some of the worst air pollution the Inland Empire does, and that we can experience this as we start to grow, as more warehouses are coming into the 15 corridor, that we have some pretty critical decisions to make about what we want in our community, what future that we want to be able to build. And I want one that is for cleaner air, for better transportation infrastructure, and of course, affordable housing. I'm endorsed by State Senator Richard Roth. I'm endorsed by several other organizations, and I look forward to a good conversation tonight and answering your questions.
Good timing. Thank you both for your opening statements. Look forward to getting through the next portion of the questions again to let the viewers and residents get a better understanding of how you guys view some of the issues affecting Lake Elsinore. Marvin, we'll start the first question with you, kind of building on your opening statements. What inspired you to run for city council?
Yeah, I think that Steve and we have different ways of approaching our positions. I know that as someone that's been a previous organizer, as an advocate on federal policies, I fought for things that have been passed at the federal level, such as lower insulin prices, the ability to negotiate prescription drug prices, and also for greener infrastructure, for greener jobs and manufacturing to come into the US. These are the leaders that I helped elect into Congress, one being the youngest woman to serve California and the other being a single mother. They're diverse perspectives, and I know that I bring in a different viewpoint of Lake Elsinore, of individuals that need to have their voice brought to this table.
Thank you for that. Steve, will offer you the same question as well. What inspired you to run for city council?
For me, it's been something that kind of ran through my blood in high school, and I went to Temescal Canyon High School. I'm a Titan, go Titans. My senior year, I was voted not most likely to succeed and not best hair. It was most likely to become a politician, and so that's been a kind of a humorous thing that's come to light. It was awful fun at our reunion. I've always had kind of a knack for leadership. And one of the things that really inspired me to kind of get off the couch and really get in the game was the politics that existed at the time when I decided to run. We had an important decision that came up, and there was some real acrimony on the council, a 3-2 council that didn't get along, where a decision was coming up about city manager, and there were literally people running with heads on pikes. And it was just a really nasty environment, and I felt like we could bring a more professional tone. It's just what we've done.
Thank you, Steve. We will move on to the next question here. This will start with you. Describe to us your vision for the city of Lake Elsinore, and what are your top 3 priorities?
For me, the most important things and kind of one of the premises that I run by is keeping our city safe, keeping our city clean, and keeping our residents' interests first. So number one priority is, of course, working to fight the tide of criminal activity that has persisted in the state of California. Unfortunately, we've been dealing with a lot of the awful setbacks that have been put together and forwarded through this experimental Proposition 47, which is essentially eliminated a lot of the penalties associated with certain criminal activity, petty theft, open drug use, things of that nature. We're looking forward for Prop 36 this November to be on the ballot, hopefully pass to get a few more tools to deal with the revolving door there. We have also set forth a number of beautification programs, been working on the lake to go ahead and clean the lake up. But most of all, we have some big decisions coming down the pipe, the developments coming to our area. We certainly have some choices in the not too distant future as far as that goes.
Thank you, Steve. Marvin, same question for you. What is your vision for the city of Lake Elsinore, and what are your top 3 priorities?
Absolutely. So my top priority is affordable housing. I see a lot of single family homes going up in Lake Elsinore. I know that we have apartments going up, but it's also the speed at which we have to do it and to be able to meet this affordability crisis that California has. When we talk about crime, when we talk about affordability, it's being able to put people in homes, making sure that they have affordable options, that it doesn't take up 60% of their income. On top of that, I believe that we need to be able to create a transportation infrastructure that can work for more of us. By that, I mean, you walk around, we have more than 75 days per year that are over 100 um, uh, degrees, and people are waiting at these bus stops. We want to make sure that it works, that people aren't going into work with near heat stroke, but also that it reflects the 21st century, that that there are online calendars and ways for people to look at times, not a static map. And finally, like I said, sustainable development. We do have decisions regarding warehouses that we have to make pretty soon.
Thank you, Marvin. Next question, we'll start with you once again, Marvin. So dealing with all sorts of personalities from both staff and constituents can be challenging to say the least. What experience do you have in consensus building? And please give us a quick example.
Yeah. So I've worked across California to help elect different members of Congress. And in those regions, they are individuals that are running for the very first time. And often, and one major one was a community that was Republican turning into a blue district. That means we have to talk to a lot of our neighbors door to door to be able to have an actual conversation with them to find our common line of agreement. Um, it's being able to negotiate with them and see what issues really matter with people. And I've been doing this across this district. I've been finding people that are on the other side of the aisle, and we're able to agree on something on the issue of warehouses, the way that it affects noise, pollution, and their comfortability in their own neighborhoods. And in that sense, it's being able to find those bipartisan ways that we are actually able to navigate city government.
Thank you, Marvin. Steve, I'll repeat the question for you. So dealing with all sorts of personalities, including staff and constituents, can be challenging to say the least. What experience do you have in consensus building? And please give us a quick example.
I can provide 2 examples. One is the creation of the affordable housing that we've had in the city of Lake Elsinore. That came often with pushback from residents who felt that this was going to be a really bad thing, and it turned out to be a really good thing. We've approved 2 affordable housing projects within the city. Those developments have been very, very good. And the second one is the Anchor, which houses chronically homeless individuals for 90 days. It's a stabilization center that's become kind of a model for the region in terms of how to deal with the increasing homelessness that has become prevalent throughout the state of California. We've been able to go ahead and keep that situation at bay. And since I've got a little extra time left, we had a developer who came forward with a really onerous plan to build a lot of houses without infrastructure and try to take that directly to the people. We were able to go ahead and work together to campaign against that and work to actually go ahead and get something better put together.
Great. Thanks, Steve. We'll move on to the next question. This is for you again here, Steve. So we have seen times when city council members have shared information with the media or publicly in the past. So share with us your understanding of how information should be disseminated about the city, particularly when it comes to social media.
Well, for me, I have a very transparent nature in terms of putting things out to the people. But typically, what we do is we have conversations about these things internally. On big issues, we leave it to the mayor, and the mayor is the spokesperson for the city, so they take the interviews and they speak to reporters, or they take the interviews from folks that are looking to go ahead and do podcasts or whatnot. But we also represent our individual districts, which means that sometimes there's activity that's happening specifically within our area, and we want to go ahead and make sure that we disseminate that information as it becomes available. Accuracy is important, but sometimes speed in certain emergency situations can be even more important. So we do work together through our PIO and through our legislative affairs folks. But for the most part, we're always actively engaged, and it's kind of a trade-off. You know, you're always figuring that out.
Thank you, Steve. Marvin, I'll repeat the question for you. So we have seen times when city council members have shared information with the public or with the media in the past. Share with us your understanding of how information should be disseminated about the city, particularly when it comes to social media.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in transparency. The government should be speaking with its people, it should be speaking with its representatives, and especially in a city as small as Lake Elsinore, it is possible to be able to speak to our community and find those online channels. And to Steve's credit, I've been watching our Instagram. We've been doing a pretty good job of communicating things. And in the middle of the fires, I was seeing updates on a very regular basis, and it's finding other ways to expand it where people are, so that the city has official channels to be able to disseminate information. Um, on that end, what I'll mention is, when it comes to things of development, I've been speaking to neighbors in Albert Hill Ranch, and they almost feel as if they've been blindsided by a potential warehousing development that is taking a plan that they believe was going to be used for colleges, for a college, for parks, for more housing, trails, and that their voice isn't being represented in this. And I truly believe that in order to find consensus, we have to be able to communicate to residents so that they can voice their opinion.
Thanks, Marvin. We'll start with you here on the next question. So in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge that Lake Elsinore will face in the next 5 years?
That's me. Thank you. You know what? I've been talking about it for a while, and it has to do with this large development that's coming into District 2. It's 4 million square feet of warehouses, some of it a distribution center, that is ultimately going to be affecting roads, the environment around us, and potentially bringing in pollution. There was a different plan, like I mentioned, that may have a different future for Lake Elsinore, where we could build a college that could have those workforce training opportunities, and be able to bring other young people into this area to explore Lake Elsinore. I know that a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends, they have to drive out up to 45 minutes to go to college. And that's something that if we were to have that plan here, we could have the ability to train a workforce that could work more regionally, and it would be right here in our backyard. And that is really a decision that we have to make, that do we want to be able to bring in all this development? Will we be able to negotiate with the residents there to find something that's suitable for them? But at the same time, there's a future here in terms of where our young will be able to get trained and be able to participate in the workforce. Thanks.
Thanks, Marvin. Steve, we'll ask you the same question. In your opinion, what will be the biggest challenge Lake Elsinore will face in the next 5 years?
I believe it's going to be the economic development for the area, and economic development's a term that almost nobody really understands. But really, what we're talking about is bringing a job center or a sense of a job center into the community. The fact is retail's dying, and COVID certainly accelerated the movement with respect to online shopping, and with that comes the challenge with logistics, right? So jobs are going away. You're starting to see some of the malls that were developed in the 80s and 90s start to go ahead and fade away, large vacancies there. What do you replace those with? And what does the new retail opportunity look like? These are largely going to be power centers. So we need folks. I actually happen to do commercial real estate, so I kind of understand this world. You have to be able to go ahead and bring people together and bring them to the table if you're going to have nice things like a steakhouse or a Hobby Lobby or some of these amenities that people are really looking for.
Thank you, Steve. We'll start the next question here with you. So do you see Lake Elsinore as being on the right track or the wrong track, and why?
Oh, wow. Well, of course, I'm going to go ahead and say city's certainly on the right track. I mean, pretty much every metric you can use to determine whether the city is moving in the right direction or not. We're moving in a positive direction. The crime's become better. We have better coverage in terms of fire service than ever before. Our facilities have improved. Our road network ratings have improved dramatically. Our schools are even getting better. That's not really our credit, but some of that kind of leaks over. We've had 86 new businesses open this year. Our main street, which when I came in, there was 2 restaurants and a lot of antique stores, is now bustling. We certainly have improved the way people enjoy time together with events, special events. Our storm team finished second, and this year in the race they were champions just the other year. I mean, pretty much every cylinder is pumping, and so even when we have natural disasters, we're still seem to be doing a pretty good job of responding even to that. So.
Thank you, Steve. Marvin, same question for you. Do you see the city of Lake Elsinore as being on the right track or the wrong track, and why?
Steve's credit. I've been watching the city grow, and honestly, I've been seeing it diversify, grow, in so many different ways. And we've had these events. I've been noticing them, just how much commercial activity is really coming in. But at the same time, in terms of looking at what our future can really look like, I think this is where a little bit of our perspective and differences in approaches and how we got here is. I come from a background where I've been talking to my community being a little bit wider, being Californians, and listening to them and being able to bridge those differences between what I believe, what we believe. And I think that the difference is that, in the sense of where I approach affordable housing, I'm a renter. You come from the realty background. In terms of commercial development, I don't have any friends that are going to be enriched by this. It's looking at what the needs of our community and what our residents are. And that's what I bring to Lake Elsinore.
Thanks, Marvin. We'll start with you on the next question here. You both referenced some of the events that Lake Elsinore puts on. So, Marvin, what is your favorite community event and what makes it your favorite?
One of the things I really enjoy is the concerts. Movies in the park. I think it's been a while since I've been to the concerts in the park, but I remember this when I was a kid in high school that we would go there. They were summer nights, and they're a good way to spend time. They're low cost, they're cheap, and it's a way of bringing the community together. And we are seeing more of these come into the city. And I mean, to the credit of the city, we've been doing a good job of creating more community activity. At the same time, I think that there's also a need for more third spaces. I remember one thing that I really enjoyed was the bonfires at the lake, which was something that I used to do as a kid, but that's something that has slowly disappeared. And being able to find affordable places where you don't have to spend money is definitely something that I'd like to see and bring to the city.
Thanks, Marvin. Steve, we'll go over to you. What would you say is your favorite community event and what makes it your favorite?
Well, Marvin took my first. No, he didn't. Actually, my favorite event is Winterfest, and Winterfest brings about 20,000 people out to our Main Street area. What we did is we combined the Unity and the Community parade that used to happen, and it was always being moved around because it was being rained out and whatnot, with the kind of Winterfest event. We put those together and we had just fireworks. If you've never been downtown, when it's lit up like a Christmas tree, and then there's music and you got the vendors, and we bring in snow so kids can go ahead and sled down real snow, and Santa Claus comes out, and man, it is a great event. Second best, Dia de los Muertos is another great event. It's something that celebrates our Hispanic heritage, and it's something that was brought in new with the new council and whatnot about 11 years ago. Big credit to Studio 395 that puts that on every year.
Thank you, Steve. We'll start here with you on this one. So hopefully you're familiar with the annual International Council of Shopping Centers, also known as ICSC conference. Do you think it's important for your city to attend, and why or why not?
It's incredibly important. And if you know any type of history with respect to what happens at that particular event, then you know that this is the place where big deals are made. This is where I would say 12 years ago when I first started going on behalf of the city, the major players in the industries didn't know who were. It was like Elsinore, who? What state are you in? And it takes time to go ahead and build up a reputation to kind of let them know where the opportunities were. And over the years, we could name numerous businesses that have come to the city as a result of those efforts. That those businesses then in turn create sales tax revenue, and that sales tax revenue certainly has enriched the city, which then in turn enriches our community. I would also say that folks might not know this, but the Temecula Promenade was actually going to go into Marietta, and it was an ICSC that they were actually talked into going to Temecula. Big things can happen.
Thank you, Steve. Marvin, I'll give you the same question. So hopefully you're familiar with the annual International Council of Shopping Centers, also known as ICSC conference. Do you think it's important for your city to attend? Why or why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Steve, you've been going there for 12 years, and I believe that, wherever the city's able to represent, and especially in something where it comes to being able to bring new business to our city. One of the things that I know I've noticed since the time I've gotten here is our own outlet center. When I first got here, a lot of people used to come to our outlet center. It used to be where you would get a lot more affordable goods than you would in other places. And that's really changed over time. It hosts events now. It has more karate. It has a karate dojo. That business there has really died down, and I think part of this in being able to represent it's bringing in different businesses, that diversity, seeing if we're able to revitalize that shopping center, not just that area, but across the entire city. So I definitely agree that we have to have that representation to be able to bring more business here to Lake Elsinore.
Well, thanks for that. So kind of along those lines, what strategies would you propose to attract and retain businesses in Lake Elsinore? Marvin, we'll start with you.
Along with whatever red tape, whatever measures we can take to make it easier for people to operate. I myself am a small business owner. I'm really recent in terms of founding this business, but it's definitely the regulatory hurdles that we have to be able to look at in terms of the city that we can make it a lot easier for people to operate here. But on top of that, it's making this place a place where people will want to come and visit. One of the things that I think is unfortunate about Lake Elsinore is that a couple of Google searches will tell you don't swim in the lake. And I know myself as a person that has lived here for a while. You hear these stories of people getting sick there, and part of that has to do with being able to combat some of the pollution. Not just putting a band-aid on it. I know that we have a machine that is putting up the bubbles to make sure that we actually we're moving the water around, but actually being able to look at where that industrial pollution is coming from and being an advocate for the city there.
Thanks, Marvin. Steve, same question for you. What strategies do you propose to attract and retain businesses in Lake Elsinore?
Well, it starts off with setting the plate, right? Good roads, sidewalks, a clean city, safe city. These are things that retailers are certainly looking for. The second thing is straight line development. So when a developer comes to the city, they need to be able to easily find out where they can operate, what's possible, and be able to get a hold of somebody who is knowledgeable enough to be able to tell them whether their idea is a good idea or maybe needs to be reworked or possibly moved to a different part of the city. And this is part of the reason why we recently hired Gina Gonzalez away from the city of Menifee, which they were none too happy about. But we were able to kind of scoop her up, and hopefully she's going to bring some of those same businesses and relationships to the city. The third thing is we have to continue to keep our fees low. And we haven't raised our fees in about 7 or 8 years. And we are talking about creating some sort of business program called the B3 program, business to business. There's a lot more on that. You can check my website out.
Well, thank you for that. We have one final question in this round. Steve, this will start with you. So how will you prioritize, how will you prioritize the city's budget to best serve the residents and the business community?
Well, the first things first is to have a balanced budget. So we don't spend more than what we take in. Second, we've established a rainy day fund of about 20% of the city's overall expenditures, and we've maintained that for the past roughly about 6 years. It took a little while to build that up. Third off, we have to use the money often for one-time services or one-time projects. And so we do have a focus on utilizing a large percentage of the budget to building new things as opposed to hiring new people or having new programs that can eventually eat up the city budget. We prioritize public safety as being number one. 55% of our budget goes towards public safety. And then, of course, we have to take care of our staff. We've got about 150 staff members that basically run everything that happens within the city. And that's about it. Pretty straightforward.
No, we appreciate that. Marvin, we'll come over to you with the same question. How will you prioritize the city's budget to best serve the residents and business community?
Yeah, along the lines of what Steve said, I mean, having a level of balance in our budget, but at the same time, it's being able to look at our business community, how development is coming along, and whether or not our residents are living in a clean and safe environment by making sure that residents are able to get to work safely, that they are breathing clean air, that they don't have any long-term diseases. That's part of having a healthy workforce that's able to keep going to work and to be able to function. I think that there are small places around the edges where we are able to improve both how people are able to get to work, whether it be our transportation infrastructure, but also how this new development works with our residents that are living here and will be living here for a long time.
Right. Well, thank you both. That concludes that portion of the question part of the forum. We're going to move into just a few more what we're going to call the speed round questions. And these can be very simple one-word answers, maybe to a maximum of 10 seconds. We're just going to kind of jump into some real quick ones here. Marvin, we'll start with you on the first one. Which constituency would you say you identify with the most? Would it be youth, seniors, long-term residents, new residents, business owners, or other?
I put myself with new residents. We've been living here. I mean, this area is relatively new. A lot of these developments have just come up over the last decade or two.
Great. Steve, same question for you. Which constituency would you say you identify the most with? Youth, seniors, long-term residents, new residents, business owners, or other?
I'm an Elsinore boy, so a lot of the longtime residents tend to resonate with me. They for whatever reason, everybody remembers me from being a kid, probably because there was only about 19,000 people in the city when we first moved here.
All right, next question will go to Steve. How many city council meetings have you attended in the last year?
Oh my God, all of them. Oh no, all but one of them. I missed one of them for a vacation that I took this year. So I don't know, something like somewhere between 15 and 20, somewhere around there.
Got it. And how about you, Marvin? How many city council meetings have you attended this past year?
Physically, I haven't made it there. But I'm part of the new remote generation. I've definitely been watching, catching up. I've been doing my research. And I think that's one of the good things about transparency in our government, that we do have those online for folks to watch.
Hey, thank you. We'll go back to you, Marvin. How long have you lived in the city of Lake Elsinore?
My parents bought a home here in 2016. We moved here around that time. Oh, not 2016, 2006. So I've been here for about 17 years. I've gone away for college. I've worked in other places, but the majority of my life has been spent in Lake Elsinore.
All right. And how about you, Steve? How long have you lived in the city of Lake Elsinore?
Parents bought their home in Lake Elsinore in 1987. I did leave for college. I went to UCLA, but came back home. I was commuting from home. Went homeless for a short time, so that was rough.
All right, Steve, we'll start with you here. It's not unusual for city council members to spend between 20, 30, maybe plus hours a week on city business. Are you willing to dedicate at least this much time?
No, I've been doing it for 12 years, so I don't see why anything would change now.
All right, same question for you, Marvin. It's not unusual for city council members to spend between 20 to 30 hours, if not more, a week on city business. Are you willing to dedicate at least this much time?
Absolutely. It's the business of the people, and this is what public service is about.
All right, Marvin, have you ever served on a committee or commission for the city?
No, I have not.
Okay, and Steve, same question. Have you ever served on a committee or commission, maybe other than city council for city of Lincoln?
Sure. I was a sector commander for the Citizens Emergency Response Team.
Right. And then our final question here, we'll go to Steve first. Do you now or have you ever owned a business?
Oh, yeah.
And then same question for Marvin. Do you now or have you ever owned a business?
I do. Started it about 2 years ago, and we're part of that new class where we're doing remote business, so no brick and mortar.
Great. Well, I want to thank you guys again for all the questions and spending that time with us. You know, it was our goal to get to know you a little bit better and see where you stand on some of the issues, and I think we've been able to accomplish that tonight. We will give you guys each now 1 final minute for a closing statement. Marvin, we're going to go to you first, so you've got 1 minute for a closing statement.
Alrighty. Well, I hope that throughout the course of tonight that we were able to highlight some of our differences. Some of the ones that I can think of most immediately. I know Steve has been here for a longer time versus myself, that 17 years, but you know, this city is definitely changing. Whereas when you were here, when there was about 19,000 residents, I got here when there was 48,000 residents. But now there's 50% more from when I got here, and almost 4 times more. In that sense, we're looking at a different like Elsinore. I think that we approach these issues from different perspectives, and I'm looking to be able to voice the concerns of this generation and the next, but be able to bridge it with the people that have lived here for a long time. This is a city that has deep roots, and we have to be able to talk with community across both aisles, across different age groups, across different generations, to be able to find a solution that really works for our city. And I hope to be able to earn your vote.
Thank you, Marvin. Steve, we'll go over to you. 1 minute for your closing statement.
Well, first off, I want to go ahead and thank the BizPac organization for putting this together. It's very important to get ideas out, and this is probably one of the better forums that I've actually attended. Appreciate Marvin. I was just like Marvin, just seems like yesterday, and wanting to go ahead and serve my community and go ahead and bring a voice to those that I felt that weren't being heeded. You know, Lake Elsinore has made a lot of progress over the past few years. We've been on a pretty great ride. We have a very cohesive council that has really put the residents' needs first. And while not everything's perfect and there's always going to be new things to work on, I think what we've shown is the ability and the tenacity to not only listen to the people and adjust on the fly, but also to go ahead and put together real solutions and stay above the fray, especially when it deals with partisan politics and whatnot. We really don't engage in trying to go ahead and raise our profile for running for higher office. And we certainly do hope to continue serving the future.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both again for not only your willingness to serve your city, but your participation in our forum tonight to allow people to get to know a little bit more about you. To anyone that's watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you there as well. And this has been recorded. I will make sure that both of the candidates get a copy of this to share with any of your supporters that may wish to learn more about you as well. But on behalf of the Southwest Riverside County BizPac, once again, thank you both very much for your participation tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.